Greetings, everybody. Brother Goodwin here, Prophet in the Spotlight. Let me read a passage for you in the book of Acts chapter 1 to introduce our program today. Acts chapter 1, verse 6 and 7. It says this, "When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel?" Remember now, Jesus has died on the cross. He's been seen and been walking the earth for 40 days. He's getting ready to send back to his Father from the Mountain of Olives. And they asked this question, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore unto Israel the kingdom? He says here in verse 7, and he said unto them, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father has put in his own power, but ye shall receive power after the Holy Ghost come upon you. We can't necessarily know when the end is here, or when the rapture is here, or the second coming. But let me ask you this: is the world? Here's the title of our show: Is the world ready? Is the world ready for the end time? We're going to look at that in today's program. I think you'll find it thought-provoking. So we'll see you in 30 seconds. And welcome, everybody. Let me ask you, is the world ready? Doc, is the world ready for the rapture and for the beginning of the events that are going to take place that we read about in the Bible?
They may not be ready, but timing is ready.
Timing is ready. There's a whole bunch of things that got to be in place, isn't there?
Yes.
And it seems to me that it's all there.
Seems to be.
I mean, it's hard for us with our human eyes and human minds to, he sitteth in the heavens, he's looking down, he can fast forward and see it all, come back and tell us what's coming, which he has.
That's why we say prophecy is simply history pre-recorded.
Yeah, history written in advance is another way to put it there. And so I had some thoughts that I had, and I know you'll have some thoughts, and signs of the end is near.
Yes.
One of them is this: if the rapture is near, and I'm convinced it is, I'm not saying it's tonight, it could be, or it could be this month, next month, it could be next year.
It's actually been imminent, not meaning in an emergency, but at any time.
Yeah, it could happen any time.
And so since 70 AD, but at the same time, knowing that, I also realize that not all of the prophecy preparing the world for the tribulation has been in place.
Yeah, that's right.
But it seems to be.
But they didn't understand that.
No.
And, 500 years ago, they're probably expecting the rapture. When you and I, looking back, we know, well, it couldn't happen then because this, and this wasn't in place.
And again, as we begin this program, we need to give this disclaimer. And that is, you got to be careful, and I say this all the time and everywhere I go.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
You do not let current events necessarily interpret prophecy.
Yeah.
Because current events can change.
Yeah.
But we are seeing, as we've talked about in the past, different roads of prophecy, whatever they might be, are all at this time in history and has never before in history converged and ready for that time.
Now, there's a statement that I guess I've made famous, so to speak, and that's this: it's all about a kingdom.
Yes, it is.
And it always has been. Where Adam and Eve lived was a kingdom, and Adam ruled that kingdom until sin came, and he lost the right to rule, and Satan was given the dominion. Because Adam had the dominion.
Yes, he did.
It's an interesting word. I looked it up in the dictionary. It means to have all authority with no accountability.
Yeah.
And interesting that these things that we vote on have that name. And
it is, isn't it? Yeah.
And on YouTube, I guess we got to be careful what we say about that. But, anybody that goes against them gets sued.
Yeah.
I mean, it costs them a fortune. It can put them out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And see, Adam had that dominion, and he forfeited that when he sinned. Yes. But it's still, it's all about a kingdom.
And in the temptation of Jesus, we find the devil took him up on a mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world.
Yeah.
Why could he make that a bona fide offer? Because they were his kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah. He says, all these will I give you, just bow down to me. And
so when we see what's happening in our world today, and we can, I get a little bent out of shape once in a while about something, then I have to remind myself, wait a minute, this really does, it's under his dominion. He's got the control, so don't get worried.
So let's just share a couple of things. Globalism. We know that in the end times, the world comes together. Now, first it comes to the 10 toes of the feet. Mm-hmm. So we've always understood, and men have written about this, that there'll be 10 kingdoms that he will be over. There'll be a war, I think.
10 kings.
Okay, yeah.
And those 10 kings will have dominion or have power for just that little short period of time.
Yeah.
But it says it will be given to them as kings.
Yeah.
And so, matter of fact, I have a message that I just preached recently being put on DVD concerning the 10 kings or the 10 codes. But yes, globalism, but really to understand globalism is partly to see that statue you're talking about in Daniel chapter 2.
It stands up on its feet. It becomes
standing
one
on its
entity.
feet, those final toes. But another book is in Zechariah and in chapter number 5, and you will find there that in his 7th vision, his vision is of a world returning to its roots at Shinar. In other words, at some time in the future, the world will once again be as it was in Shinar and Nimrod's day. A one world religion, a one world government, one world economic system, like it was. And this is what we're seeing, and that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
We are seeing everybody and everything moving. Doesn't matter whether you're looking at the economic system, the political system, or whatever. You cannot help but realize everything is moving toward a global setting.
Now, I wrote this down in the truck today while I was coming here about globalism. How do we explain what it is? I wrote this down. Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Tech, technical issues, and communication. Yeah. Globalism means you're global, which means you got to be able to communicate. You got to be able to get to one another.
You don't have to be in the same building together.
Right. And in other words, during the Antichrist kingdom, if he's going to rule the world, dictate who can buy and sell, there has to be worldwide global communication.
That's right.
Visual or audio, whatever, or through a chip in your head. Who knows what else that chip does?
That's true.
That chip, because Elon Musk's already talking about this chip in your head that's going to help you.
Neuralink.
Yeah. The mark of the beast, we don't really know a lot about it.
No. And I'm not sure. I really don't care because I'm not going to be here at that time. But we cannot help but see technology taking that road. As I said a while ago, the road. You take the road of technology, you cannot help but see how that has brought us to a point where what we find in the seventh or in the last 7 weeks of Daniel's prophecy, tribulation, could happen.
Now you let an event happen like the seashell thing that just happened with the FBI, the former FBI director. That's gone. It's gone
worldwide.
Global.
And you don't take it back.
You can go anywhere in the world and hear about that now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I could name a dozen things, and we're in that global system.
We're
now.
in a system. When I was a boy growing up, what would happen in our town of about 3,000, 50 miles away in a bigger town, they might not hear about it for the end of the week or 2 weeks or whatever. Today, whatever happens, and no matter where you are, it's in the entire world instantaneously.
It used to be newspapers where most people got their news. I remember in Bible college in the 80s, everybody was getting the USA Today. I don't even know if that exists anymore.
I think it does.
USA Today, now it's probably digital, but everybody, it was a physical paper that you held in your hand and opened up and read.
I can remember when the periodicals from various institutions was everybody couldn't wait for the week whenever it was going to come in the mailbox.
Yeah.
Well, today we have no need of a mailbox other than we call that email box, but everything's instantaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that road is certainly got us ready for the end.
Well, we could spend the whole show on that,
Yes.
but digital currency.
Oh.
Now you say, well, how do you know it's going to be digital? I don't see how it
It
cannot
can't
be.
it couldn't be otherwise.
How could a man dictate who can buy and sell if it's physical money?
You know,
that you have
I
in your
can
pocket?
remember as a boy growing up, because my uncle was well known in those days, in the 50s and 60s, of teaching on prophecy. And there were some people in those days who were showing coins and said, this is what's going to be and my uncle said, it can't be, because not everybody in the world is going to be able to use a piece of coin. He said, it's got to be something different.
Your dad was way above the curve, wasn't he?
And so he knew that it had to be something besides just a physical thing. It had to be, if he was alive today, he'd say, well, this is what I believed all along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a digital system means that somebody controls that system. You have to be entered into the system by somebody.
And I think it's going to start out, and this may be partly where our 10 kings come into this picture, because somewhere in the process of globalization, they're going to have an authority for a short period of time. And then that's going to be given ultimately to that 7th or that 8th, that little horn out of Daniel, the Antichrist. So we're hearing almost daily, if you scour the news, you're going to find some mention somewhere, and some days a lot of mention, about the new digital currencies, whether it's in America or whether it's out of UK or wherever it is, it's going to be.
And the truth is, I know we have paper money and coins, but we're already a digital currency, and we're already a cashless society. It's just that we have a little bit of both.
We still have we have the blending of them.
Yeah. And that could end in
here's
a moment.
The thing. I'm from a little older generation, and so I understand it. I was in the store line the other day at Walmart, and the man in front of me was writing out a check.
Yeah.
And everybody behind me is fussing and fuming. You know, and they're going to put it in. What they do, they turn it digitally in there and hand him his piece of paper back. And the younger crowd, I've watched my son, my older son, and all three of boys. When they get something, even if it's just a Coca-Cola at the drive-through or
Use
wherever,
a card.
they tap something.
Yeah.
And they'll say, do you want a record? No. Because everything they're doing is digital. So when us older folks are off the situation, this younger crowd they're already solid digital.
Well, Doc, since we're on the subject of money and digital, tell them a little bit about what we need here at Prophet in the Spotlight.
We operate on the gifts and offerings of those people like you that want to partner with us in our ministry. We don't have any big financial givers. Once in a while, somebody will, out of the blue, send us a large check, maybe $2,000 or $5,000. I don't think we've ever had a $10,000 one, but anyway.
No, other than the lady that got us started.
But it's just ordinary people who say, well, I don't have much to give, but it's kind of like the tithing of the church. Everybody gives their little, and it's enough to meet the need.
Yeah.
And that's where we are.
Yeah.
We just have our needs met. Neither one of us get anything from this personally, but we certainly need your help so we can stay on the programs that we're on.
And Doc, this June is 5-year anniversary for Prophet. Wow. That's hard to believe.
It's a long.
You're getting old, Doc.
I am. I can tell you from the aches and pains, I really am.
Yeah, and I am too. 5 years. Who'd have ever thought
Amen.
we could have got this going?
And we've been on here all this time by the gifts of God's people partnering with us.
So you can call the 800 number. It flashes up here all the time. You can send a check in the mail. You can call. You can email us, whatever. You can meet me out in front of my house and give me cash. I'll take that. But no, just we'd love to hear from some of you. And, we believe that what we're doing is important, and I think many of you do too. I get a lot of calls from folks, and a lot of people write a check and they please stay on television. And
if we didn't think it was, we wouldn't do. People have no idea how much work, how much time goes into all of this in many different facets. If we didn't think it was worth it, we wouldn't be doing it.
Well, let's look at, so the digital currency, it's here. The mark of the beast system could be implemented very quickly.
I could see where it could, at least to that part of it. The controlling of it into other people, it still would have to be another facet worked out, but it could be easily done.
And the truth is, we could be all digital before the mark of the beast. In fact, before the rapture, we could be all digital.
I won't be a bit surprised.
And we know the mark of the beast is instituted at the middle of the tribulation, but that doesn't mean that it's already cashless before that. It's just that he'll decide who gets to buy, who doesn't, if you don't accept the mark.
Ultimately, that's where it's going to end up.
And I'm beginning to be convinced there's more to this mark than we realize. It's not just identification. I think there's going to be more to that mark.
Well, you're hearing right now, to be able to travel, you're going to have a real ID.
Yeah.
You know, it's a digital connection. President Trump just come back from his tour through Middle East. And one of the commentators or bloggers that I watched last night said, there are two main things that he did. He said, I know he brought back about $4 trillion worth of investment to America, but he said what he really done was established the petrodollar 2.0, solidifying the dollar as being the dominant currency, where you're having the BRICS edging in, you've got all these others. He's solidifying that. And the whole bottom line is, once that's done, it's going to all be brought into
Wasn't Saudi
digital.
Arabia part of the BRICS?
Yes.
And yet he's endorsing. It looks like he threw that under the bus.
Saudi Arabia wasn't a part of the original BRICS, no. The S is for South Africa. But the agreement with Saudi Arabia from the beginning of the Bretton Woods, the beginning of it was maybe a handshake, but that petrol would always be sold based on the dollar. And so China has tried to cut into that. Russia's tried to cut in. And part of this was to solidify that deal more than a handshake with Saudi Arabia. And so economics for the end times.
Worldwide communication. I think we kind of already said that, but you've got to be able to communicate with the world. That chip takes care of that too. Yeah, it could be more than just.
Well, right now the chip's in here, and it's communicating all the way around the world.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that the chip that is going to, everybody says, well, it's not a chip, it's a tattoo. Well, in or on, whatever.
It's got to be something that will allow you into a financial system at a guy who's selling.
And today, that chip's on that little bitty spot on your card, your ATM card or your whatever your card. Well, for security's sake, they put it in. Well, maybe that's why they'll cut your thumb off. I don't know. But anyway, we can see the early stages of these things being able to be put together for that.
Now, there's another one that I think most people don't think about or think of it as a end-time thing, but this thing called diversity.
Yes.
Diversity. The Bible says in the last days, during this 70th week, the world is going to be diverse. Let me just read a couple of Daniel chapter 2, the Old Testament. Whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, part of iron. Of course, this is the statue. the kingdom shall be divided, and I highlighted that word divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron, part of clay, so the kingdom, this is the Antichrist kingdom, shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, now don't miss this part, folks, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as the iron is not mixed with clay. Let me point out very sternly here what this is not talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
This is not talking about fallen angels and spirit beings and flesh coming together, having baby. That is not even close to what this is talking about. They take this passage and they butcher it. They also go to Daniel 7.
Yeah, but why don't they go to Nehemiah? When Nehemiah talked about the mingling and the mixed seed. He's talking about two different cultures, two different people's groups.
Yeah, and he was upset about it. It's the same thing. During the end time, the world comes together and there's going to be huge diversity.
Yes.
And I've said this, and it's in my books. Diversity does not strengthen a nation, it weakens a nation.
Absolutely.
You get different cultures, different work ethics, different beliefs, different morality, different way we dress, and different eating habits. You have problems. Different languages, and we saw that at the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
And this is all in that book you're seeing, folks. What I'm reading right here is in that 7 Clocks a Ticking book, the global kingdom that's coming.
Yeah.
It's going to be diverse, so there's going to be some weakness there. And
because you can't have full... Because I've got a different historical background than you've got an altogether different. Hey, back in the histories, we were at war with each other. Here we are together. I mean, there's so many things.
And Doc, you've got a book up there, 7 into Ken. That's a DVD.
That's a DVD. And out of Luke chapter 21, Jesus gives us 7 things, distinct things to look at as signs.
Can you remember 1 or 2 of them?
Well, starts off with being deceived. He talks about religious affiliations and the things in the religious circle.
Wow, that's today.
Because and we're seeing the feminization of Christianity in our world. He talks about signs under the earth, signs on the earth, signs above the earth. He gave 7 distinct things in Luke chapter 21 that are signs of the times. And that would be for an altogether another. I think one time a few months ago or maybe last year, we talked about this, but yes, I have a DVD on it.
All right, so that's on the website, and my book's on there. There's another one here, of course, with the the cashless economic system. We talked about that already, and global institutions. Now, this has been coming for 50 years, 75 years. I think beginning maybe with the United Nations, I think that happened when Israel became a nation, wasn't it? 1948?
Somewhere along in there.
United
all
Nations.
Of these things, all of these major things that we're talking about, all were spun out of the era of Israel coming back to life again.
Yeah.
That's exactly true.
And that's 1948.
From that point on, everything has just rapidly expanded.
Let me read a few of these here. Global institutions, the strong emergence in our culture of United Nations, the World Bank. Why do we need a World Bank? I mean, whose money's in that World Bank? I mean, who knows? The International Money Fund, we call it the IMF. I don't know what that's all about. The European Union, all signs pointing to the one world order. NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
All of them pulling together.
Police forces from NATO, soldiers, and we even have the World Council of Churches. Every possible situation is in place to usher in the rule of the Antichrist. See, these mechanisms are needed. If you got like we said, a one world financial system, you can't buy or sell. There's got to be a mechanism to operate that. And it's this mark of the beast system.
And one of the best things is to have a religious institution of some sort, because everybody has that missing, because they're lost. They don't have a connection with their Creator God. So the false religion is one of the greatest tools for getting people to fall in line with it.
And of course, the false prophet pushes people to worship the Antichrist.
Antichrist.
And follow him.
Yes.
And hey, I bet if you're not in that religious system that he heads up, I bet you're not looked upon very
right.
nicely.
And
It'd be just like not having the mark of the beast.
Eventually it'll be that life and death situation.
And we saw that in the last 4 years, where
Yes.
people who are Christian in their beliefs were treated differently.
In Germany right now, they added 3 years and 9 months to his sentence. He's in prison because he had a team together. They were down, I believe, in Brazil, working on all of this stuff, gathering information concerning that recent pandemic that we had. And they literally kidnapped him, took him back, put him on trial, put him in prison. And all he was doing was giving honest scientific facts. Yeah. This is a worldwide problem.
Each one world branch is currently and anxiously awaiting its moment for power and control in the timeline of history.
And I wonder how many men want to be the Antichrist without realizing that's what it'll ultimately be. They all want to be, I mean, our president's ego is bigger than both of us put together, and he'd love to be the king of the world.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of behind the scenes that people don't see with him, though. You know, he has helped a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
I mean, before he was president, years ago.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Yes, you're sure he's got an ego.
The world is filled with men who would, with their ego, would be thrilling to step on the stage to run the world. He's just one of many.
Yeah. And right now, I believe
he just right at the moment is the leader.
He's fulfilling that role pretty well. He's dictating to the world. The world is coming to him.
You're going to play by my rules.
Yeah. And of course, he's given them good reasons, or the good financial reasons.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And he's willing to help even some of these nations that have hated us.
And honestly, he made a statement yesterday. He said, because they were saying, why did you release some of the sanctions or lower your tariffs on China? He said, because they were going to split completely in two. We got to save their nation.
Now that's a leader.
That's a leader.
That's a guy.
And leaders in the world are looking up to a leader.
There's people, human beings in China that are not part of the regime.
And he wants to end the war in Ukraine because of the great suffering of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, this is the day we live in, folks. We're living on the cusp of the end. I'm certain of that. I'm not saying sell your possessions and turn in your life insurance. I'm saying just be ready for the coming of the Lord. You better be ready, because he's coming any soon. Everything's in place. One thing left, and that's getting us out of the way. That's the rapture. If you don't know you're saved, if you're confused about salvation, contact us. We'll help you. We'll send you something to read. We'll talk to you on the phone, whatever we can do. All right. Well, God bless. And until next time, keep your eyes on them sky.